Hey everyone, Sean from Bay Area Nerf here again. We're going to talk about more tips and tricks for what works for us in the Bay Area for our burn events for Nerf wars. This time I thought we'd talk about another important subject. It's going to be location, where you actually host your Nerf wars. Now this is a tricky one because I feel like a lot of people run into problems when trying to find a location to host a Nerf wars. Just because there's not a lot of free land out there, it's hard to find a location that'll accommodate enough people, it's hard to find a place you might have access to. So here are some tips and tricks that worked really well for Josh and myself when we were looking for locations here in the Bay Area that hopefully can apply to you in other places in the world. First off, the place you're going to want to find, you want to make sure that you do have a right to use that location. It's always bad when you're playing in a location that you don't have permission to play there. It invites trouble. It means that if you get upset parents, upset pedestrians, the police, park rangers, anyone who doesn't expect you to be there and you're playing, it can ruin a game. Trust me, there's nothing worse than in the middle of the game having to be stopped, explaining to an official why you want to play there and why you want to keep playing there and trying to fight for your right to keep nerfing. It is not a good idea. I advise you finding a place where you can play openly. That said, what kind of locations are like that? I feel like the first one and the most common one you see a lot of people playing on is a college campus. What's nice about college campuses is usually your entire Nerf community that you're going to be playing with is located right by campus. A lot of college students love playing humans versus zombies and other forms of Nerf. I advise you, if you're playing on a college campus, talk to the campus PD. Talk to the locals who are in charge of your campus's security. Make sure that they know that you're going to be playing, that there are Nerf blasters, that people are going to be dressing up bloody looking like zombies or be dressed in tactical gear. Permission is always really important. You do not want to get caught and in trouble with campus PD because they'll just shut it down anyway. It's better to ask for permission than forgiveness in this book. Usually my advice is to do the opposite, but I feel like with larger and larger wars, there's nothing that's more of a bummer than being shut down halfway through. It sucks. Of course, not being able to play at all sucks more, but that's why we're going to talk about more locations to play at. College campuses are nice because there's a lot of infrastructure, a lot of classrooms set up, a lot of cool stuff to play and use in your games. They work well for HVZ because there's a lot of walking in HVZ in a lot of locations. I feel like for smaller Nerf wars, well, no, not smaller, that's not the right word, but more tactical Nerf wars. This is a term Josh and I use a lot when describing our wars, is tactical. It means that you're playing games like Capture Flag, Team Deathmatch, King of the Hill, stuff that requires squad-based actions to complete. So when you're playing tactical Nerf wars, it makes more sense to have a smaller area that's more like a commonplace arena you would see in a video game, as opposed to a wide open area with a lot of interesting surroundings, just because it's hard to balance out those locations. If you have spawn points, if you have people zone in or zone out in certain areas, you want to try and have the field be as balanced as possible, so that's something you want to look for. Is there a good place I can have these people join the game and feel like they're not at a disadvantage from joining from one side to the other? Another thing that's worked out really for us is parks. A lot of parks, anyone can go there and use them. You see people playing soccer, football, baseball. Nerf is a sport too. Why not play that there? That said, be courteous of the people around you. You want to find a park that is open and has enough space for you to play, but not that you're monopolizing the space of the park. You want to make sure you're sharing it with everyone who's there. If you get upset park attendants or people who are there trying to enjoy a picnic, they're definitely going to come after you and ask you to leave or call the police on you. I mean, in the end, it does kind of suck, but Nerf blasters do look like firearms, so there is always that risk that if they think they can get you out of there on that excuse, they will take it. So try and avoid that. If you can find a big enough park where you can play and have that space, go for it. I wouldn't really recommend playing in the woods. You're going to lose a lot of darts out there and they'll get hit in leaves, and that costs a lot of money and people get bummed out about that. More open flatlands like parks are great for that reason because usually they're flat grass with a couple of trees you can use as cover or park benches to set down stuff. And they're also easy to find right away. You can just say, hey, the location for our war is going to be here. Here's the address for the park. We're going to meet at these benches on the north side. Go there. Something that's worked out particularly well for us, and once again, I advise you to check your local laws and see what is allowed. Public schools. Public schools will usually be open in California after hours just because they're open campuses. They are not closed in like a lot of colder states are. They're open. You can walk around. Lockers are outside. Students are outside. During off hours, usually during the weekend, we'll go to these campuses completely open and play there. Be respectful. I cannot stress this enough. Be respectful of where you're playing. Don't damage anything. Don't break anything. Don't play games that tempt the idea of breaking things. Just because if you get the school's attention in a negative way, you're gone. Kaput. End of war. Once again, you do not want that to happen. Once you find a location you like, be as respectful as possible. Be as transparent as possible. Let people know what you're doing, how you're playing, that sort of thing, so you don't get kicked off the campus. Always a bad idea. I've seen people play in parking structures as well. It's kind of iffy. If you have parking structures that don't get a lot of traffic, I don't really see a problem in that. It's similar to playing like street hockey in the street. You just gotta move when a car comes through. So that's one option you can use there. I've seen people play on the streets in cities. I feel like it's a good idea and it's very fun, but it's hard playing around all those pedestrians. Luckily in San Francisco, there's so much weird stuff going on already that you can get away with it, but I figure most places around the world aren't going to be the same. Other good places, we've seen Basic Nerf in his videos. He plays in a church. If you have community centers, churches, anywhere where you can sign up for time, feel free to use those. You can often create cheap and easy cover, which we can probably cover in another video, to be able to use those spaces and have fun wars in them. So they're not just bland, blank slates. You can set up chairs, tables, deployable cover, whatever you need to get your war exciting. Check in your local communities to see what you have. If you have a church, ask a pastor. It never hurts to ask. The worst that they're going to say is no. So always just go out there and be ambitious. If you think someone's going to say no, hey, try it anyway. You might get surprised and get the answer you want to hear. So that's definitely a plus. Go for it. Other than that, school campuses, parks, parking lots, parking garages, open fields are also good. I know some places in the US just have wide open ranges. People have lots of property for way cheaper. It's not like that here in the Bay Area. Pretty much every single square foot of land is occupied or taken somehow. If you have a field you can just go out and play in, by all means take it. Usually people don't mind because they're so off in the distance, nobody really cares what's going on there. My personal opinion, set up cover, set up something to keep it dynamic. I personally love the urban setting, so I love having concrete and pillar and doorways to hide into, but you can't always get that, so that's not always your luck. I would say those are the main places that we've had success with. I'd like to hear your ideas. Where do you play Nerf? Where are your Nerf wars hosted? Is there anywhere where you're playing that normally you would never imagine possible, but you got lucky? What techniques have worked for you when asking for permission? Let us know here and we'll cover it in another episode. Until next time, this is Sean with Bay Area Nerf. Happy tagging!